niki pull up hambongi match increase content ya pori nita flourish bila just challenge TikTok ku cross dress social vixen kutingisha kwa vida na moshi zala tell us more than mangapi umegwara mtaratara lifestyles ya branch na tala sijuju na dudia sote tutanyuria ukiwa next na kaburi ni future unachungulia nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what total man total man total man total man total man total man Vegas wanajua stake is high vacation white beach Hawaii mistakes zako zinakuwa chai LOL banta za TL uchi to Gucci nivo kwa mapato ranking 1 minute weni mwanaume akutishi the next unazuia another buildings Kepinski rumors zimechacha umechapa ama unachapa pesa onge ama pesa ionge the three wise men wananifuata ndio I meet Christ nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what total man total man total man total man total man total man nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what nikiwa mtoto wakauliza nikigrow up nitabi what total man total man total man total man total man total man
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Pawa Radio.
Mama, Papa, naomba baraka kwenyu niondoke mimi dada brother man hebu someni kwa bidii ndio mje mjini hapa nyumbani sisi sio matajiri ila tunayo akili chochote unachohitaji ukikifanyia kazi yeye atakibariki ila wewe usisahau kuomba na kila unapoomba niombe nikuombe kwani maombi yangu pekee hayawezi niombe kwani maombi yangu pekee hayawezi by now every day all day pam 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 ndiye ajuaye ndiye apangaye jana leo kesho and every other day ndiye ajuaye ndiye apangaye everywhere you wanna go unapohitaji kuenda yeye atakufikisha weka imani kwake shida zako zote hakuna na kila unapoomba niombe, niombe, kwani maombi yangu peke hayawezi.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
A very good morning to you, our listeners from all over the world. We are tuned in to Power Morning Drive, and this is Power Radio. My name is Omondi, Ochuka, and I'm your host today. I don't know how you are doing. It's a very chilled morning. It rained throughout the night in most parts of the country. I don't know how you are, if you're safe, you're driving to work, or you're ready at work, or you're just waking up to face the day. Do talk to me, talk to us on X at Power254. The hashtag is Power Morning Drive. I don't know, when I was coming to the radio today, something happened very funnily. So you know how Nairobi can be a little bit of an ocean during the rainy weathers. And there was a Kamade was just passing by, and this guy, I don't know whether he meant it or he didn't mean it so, but I think if you're driving to work, be very careful. Don't splash water to bystanders or pedestrians. Be tech vigilant, or you could be a very bad portal that could also harm your car. So do take vigilance when you're driving. Drive carefully. Be aware or cognizant of the pedestrians or walking down the road. If you're taking a Mat 3, be very careful. Dress warm, of course. Take an umbrella and everything that you need for the weather. It's a beautiful week ahead. I hope so. I hope it's going to be a beautiful week. Ready for the day. I don't know if you are. Do talk to us if you're ready. This is Power Morning Drive. I'm going to have 2 songs, and then we'll come back to discussions. We'll come back to the headlines first, and then look at what's on the dailies, and then we'll get you to the discussion we have today. There's a lot of very beautiful stuff lined up for you next. Do give me 2 songs, and then we come back and check in what's up.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio. Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Usiyatamani ya mwenzio, kazi ni kazi, kazi ni kazi. Usijilinganishe na mwenzio, tunza hiyo yako, tunza ulicho nacho. Obongo nyakalagano laga gigita, jadolo none nakakuecho, jango madonge tinda chiemo, tobanjoloro chalo pikuja, fimbo ya mbali ya iuwinyoka, shika ulicho nacho, jikakamue, jikakamue. Fimbo ya mbali ya iuwinyoka, shika ulicho nacho, jikakamue, jikakamue. Manyopesa manokela Nairobi, manyopesa manokela Nairobi, wandu mauso kekao kigoi, kao kigoi. Manyopesa piga hustle, nazidi toa jasho. Wake up then I grind on a daily. If you owe me money then pay me. Oh, one thing you need to remember, don't mix business with pleasure. If you do then you own a cheza. Make a move cause it's now or never. Bila hela utabebwa ndogo. Saka hela sabuni ya roho. Bila hela utabebwa ndogo. Saka hela sabuni ya roho. Manu pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi. Manu pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi. Kila wiki najikaza, mashabiki hewa kuwapa. Baada dhiki kweli ni faraja, ipo siku ndavuka daraja. Yeah. Usinione sina cheo, jube ya jana si ya leo. Binadamu maendeleo, ya wajo Kisumu mambo leo. Oriti anadhi, mziki korotera. Oriti anadhi, mziki amatera. Oriti anadhi, mziki korotera. Oriti anadhi, mziki amatera. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manyo pesa mano kela Nairobi. Manu mauso kao kigoi.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Good morning. This is Power Morning Drive, and my name is Omondi, Ochuka. I'm your host today. We're going to look at what is making headlines in the dailies. But before we do that, we'll select some few things on the news. President Ruto's statement after Iran's aerial attack on Israel. Kenya has urged Israel to show utmost restraint towards Iran to avoid escalating the conflict beyond recovery. This is after Iran launched an aerial attack on Israel in a bid to retaliate against an Israeli strike that killed several senior Iranian military commanders in Damascus on April 1st. In a statement on X, President William Ruto says the attack will only aggravate an already delicate situation in the Middle East. And then when we look at Sifuna alleges plot to plant weapons in Arati's home. The ODM party has expressed concern over plans by some senior security officers to allegedly plant weapons in the rural home of Kisii Governor Simba Arati as part of a wider scheme to settle political scores. I think Kisii County has been having a big issue between the governor and the deputy governor. The deputy governor was called by the Senate to appear before a disciplinary committee, and I think he was dismissed. I don't know what the status now reads for his tenure as the deputy governor for Kisii County. And this is something that is replicated across many counties in Kenya, where deputy governors are fighting the governors and senators are also fighting the governors. We'll talk about it when we're highlighting the dailies. And then we look at why your chief could be in office illegally. Laws rendered useless as what they cover could be in jeopardy. So did you know that your chief could be in office illegally? A case filed by the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, is challenging a move by the National Assembly to pass an amendment that allows the extension of certain acts of parliament. And then we look at reaction as Ruto's nominee for top job fails to explain what GDP means. Which country is this? All right. So, what do you know what a GDP means for you as a listener? What do you think GDP means? Really talk to us on X, Power 254. The President William Ruto's nominee for the top job has cracked Kenyans with his response to a question on the meaning of gross domestic product. Charles Githinji's response cast doubt on the suitability of the candidate for the diplomatic position he was nominated for. Initially, Tourism Cabinet Secretary nominee Penina Malonza failed to impress Kenyans during her vetting. And this goes to meritocracy. I think sometimes the appointing authority usually rewards loyalty instead of merit. And that can be a very huge problem when we look at how we can be able to have a responsive public servant or public service. And then we look at EPRA announces decrease in fuel prices for April. Kerosene drops by car. This is very good. 18 shillings, huh? So that's a bit of a reprieve for most of our motorists and also households who are using kerosene. So the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, of Kenya has revealed the maximum retail prices of petroleum products for the upcoming period starting April 15th, that is today. Super petrol will see a decrease in 5.31 shillings per litre, and then while diesel and kerosene will witness a reduction of 10 shillings per litre and then and 15.68 litre respectively. In Nairobi, then the prices of petrol, diesel, and kerosene will be 193.85, 180.38, and 170.06 respectively. I think there's a big reprieve. We've been crying out, when you're traveling up country, when you're traveling around, they've hiked the prices. I hope the Matatu Association and most motorists and most gas stations are going to lower the prices so that it can reflect this change immediately. And then we look at international news, actually. Yeah, we look at international news. We see how Israel and allies intercepted more than 300 Iranian strikes. Now, Iran launched about 170 drones and 150 missiles, but a multi-layered defense system stopped about 99% of the munitions, says Israel. The live update says Israel weighs response after Iran fires missile barrage. I think we saw that over the weekend, and it has been a huge debate in online spaces. And then we say US will not take part in any Israeli retaliatory action against Iran. President Joe Biden warned Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the US will not take part in any counter-offensive against Iran, an option Netanyahu's war cabinet favors over a mass drone and missile attack on Israel territory, according to officials. And then we look at Sudan. Hang on a minute. Sudanese refugee in Chad unable to access medical care for war injuries. So some of people in Ambelia camp waiting for treatment to wounds resulting from ethnic violence last year. And then we look at a Malawian journalist who was killed after highlighting a business corruption. Rights group condemn arrest of Macmillan Mhone, who was charged with publication of news likely to cause fear and alarm. And then we look at the Mexican space, where we're seeing Mexico calls for an UN to expel Ecuador over embassy raid as tensions soar. Ecuadorian police forced their way inside embassy in Quito as arrest former vice president who was seeking asylum in Mexico. And then we look at the sports daily. Kiliumana sana last weekend. I don't know which team you support. I'm not very fan of football, but I see Liverpool lost to Crystal Palace on 1-0. Tottenham beat Leicester City 2-1, and then Man United beat Chelsea 2-1, and West Ham lost to Fulham 2-0. Arsenal ndovu ni kama ilianguka kwa mti kabisa. It's bad. So I think Aston Villa beat Arsenal 2-0, and then Leverkusen versus Bremen 5-0 beat Bremen 5-0, and then Arsenal women and Arsenal beat Bristol women 5-0. That's on the dailies and highlights the news today. We'll come back with the dailies after 2 songs, and then we'll proceed to meet our discussion today. All right, bye.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Ukipata nafasi upotezi wakati. You're saying that you won't fall back, no way. All you need to show me is just one day. Ukipata ukipata nafasi hivyo ushakuwa chali. Just zingine tuna vibe, you know that's alright. I know you know we made it through so many nights. Na hiyo time inapofika, you know you're the one. Mimi nitaitika nikufikie, bado unirudie. Mapenzi ni ya bure, utaachwa usisinzie. Take it nice and slow, don't get lost, oh no. Kwa mwendo wa kasi, nipe nafasi, nikuoneshe mapenzi wa kasi. Niko na penzi wa kasi, na mwendo wa kasi, no. Nipe nafasi, nikuoneshe mapenzi wa kasi. Niko na penzi wa kasi, na kinachonichanganya ni nini yeye ufanyangana. Mi bado hung'ang'ana, nisiko ready kusema kwa heri, no. Kinachonichanganya ni nini yeye ufanyangana. Mi bado hung'ang'ana, nisiko ready kusema kwa heri, oh. Mwendo wa kasi, nipe nafasi, nikuoneshe mapenzi wa kasi. Niko na penzi wa kasi, no. Mwendo wa kasi, oh. Nipe nafasi, nikuoneshe mapenzi wa kasi. Niko na penzi wa kasi.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Once upon a time, there was a woman, and that woman gave life to you and me. Hapo awali palikuwepo na mama mjasiri, I know you can feel it. The crown is up for the taking, and I just wanna know how we're moving by in cycles, just like a merry-go-round. This is a new dawn, we're no longer gonna cry. This is a new dawn, we're no longer gonna cry. Thotinda, thotinda, oh thotinda, thotinda, mama. Thotinda, thotinda, oh thotinda, thotinda, mama. Nera, 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 doga nera. Sitotingishika, sitobabaika, bali tumefika leo. Ejonyau kororingo, gine no adonjo. Ejoluoro koropondo, giwinjo wanyono. Jonyau kororingo, gine no adonjo. Ejoluoro koropondo, giwinjo wanyono. This is a new dawn, we no longer gonna cry. This is a new dawn, we no longer gonna cry. No. Thotinda, thotinda, oh thotinda, thotinda, mama. Thotinda, thotinda, yeah. Oh thotinda, thotinda, mama. Nyau kororingo, gine no adonjo. Joluoro koropondo, giwinjo wanyono. Jonyau kororingo, gine no adonjo. Joluoro koropondo, giwinjo wanyono.
Champum. Yeah. See, I see. Okay. As it cocktail, you know. Kijakazi ameniadaa, amenipini mdomo, alama kwa mkono, mchoro za kamba nono, kwa mbao amenilaza kama kipande cha nyama. Masani ya lunch usahau, kumbuke niko njaa sijadishi ba. Ana fist on me na mapose bila pressure, sabuni ashachanganya akiniosha kwenye boot kama Mercedes Classic. Ni uchungu ikiingia, nikisonga nasongesha tena ndani kabisa, hasira inanijaa, git inamwagika tena nikisonga, kiso nachomoa, macho imekodoa.
Niguza vibaya mimi mtoto kijana, usichana wangu ndo walisha familia. Mama amemchapa baba, amempiga vibare, nani atanamini nikisema nadanganya?
Niko na guilt na mawazo kwanza za kuogofya, nasikitika sana vile jamii nanitenga, kila mtu ananisema kosa ilangu tena, kijakazi alinitenda. Niko na trauma inaniumiza, mawazo ya kujinyonga, virusi zinanikula, shetani ameingia, nimechoka juu, hakuna neniamini nikisema, jakazi amenilawiti, majuto ni mjukuu, afadhali ingefeta mdomo. Majuto ni mjukuu, afadhali ingefeta mdomo.
Ameniguza vibaya mimi mtoto kijana, usichana wangu ndo walisha familia. Amemchapa baba, amempiga vibare, nani atanamini nikisema nadanganya?
Speak it out, normalize it. Silence your norma, normalize hiyo norma. Kunormalize hiyo norma, kuishinalize ndio norma. Si ukate hiyo ego, normalize.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Good morning, this is Power Morning Drive, and my name is Omondi, Ochuka. I'm your host today. That was Hazy Copton, if I got the name correct, by Vibaya. He has actually a new album coming up. He's supposed to launch it, I think, in 2 weeks or what? The album is called Dream Possible. Earlier on, we had Casper Juang with Thotinda. And there's a line there that was very, very catchy for me. It's a new dawn. We are no longer born a crime. Think about it. You know, for a long time, many youths, you know, you're born and you cruise through life, and then you get to your early 18s, 19, and then you become an adult. And then all of a sudden, your life sort of feels like it's a big mistake. You know, like nothing is going on very well. You went to college, you know, things are not working. The system is failing you completely. You are just, like a pariah, like a stray cat walking in the street. And life can be very hard for a young person going through life at that space and that time and that stage in life. So we are no longer a crime. This is a new dawn. And I think this is something that we could reflect on in terms of our own individual spaces, in terms of what we can do individually at our own personal level. And then earlier on, we had Jerai with Mwendo Wakasi. For those people nursing injury hooks for injuries for heartbreaks. Najua crazy inaweza uma sana. Every time you've not moved on already, you think like, you still got a chance. But so the person alisha oga kenda marikiti akabuy stuff, groceries, kibao, and they have moved on already. You're still hanging in there with your injuries. So yeah, today we're going to look at what's making it to the dailies, and then we move on to our discussion today. I'm going to highlight just a few. On Daily Nation, we have Nation set on early campaign mode. We talked about this, I think, some 2-3 weeks ago when we were looking in terms of what makes it. I think it's a very interesting phenomenon that we can look at in a very special show. Because we seem to be, and this is such an African phenomenon, if I'm not wrong, we seem to be in perpetual election mode. And election ends, and then the following week, there's already re-strategizing. The people are moving, people are defecting from one party to another. And I think this affects governance in some way or another, because right now we're seeing the fights between deputy governors and governors. We're seeing the fights between senators. We're seeing aspirants who are vying for various seats, who are hoping to vie for various seats in 2027. They're already pitching campaigns. And this, of course, affects, because it distracts people who are already in office, and they're wondering, am I going to be nitafurushwa nje ama form ni gani hapa? And then we have disaffection across counties giving governors hard time. This is the same thing we were talking about. When you have active, ongoing campaigns in your backyard, you tend to think that should I also throw myself in the campaign? Because if I don't do so, then what will happen to me? And then this fear ends up affecting how you perform in your office, in your role. I think we need to have a very crucial role that can actually govern and regulate how campaigns are done. Maybe we could do it maybe a year or 1.5 years before the election, and before that, people can be let to do their jobs. And then we have family, friends celebrate the life of June Moi at Sunday service. June Moi was the daughter of the former president, Daniel Toroitich Moi. And then widows 100 million estate yet to be distributed following controversy. Apparently, the court told trustee that the trustee does not know the beneficiary. And the will that has 7 beneficiaries has been contested as a forged one. See, this is the Belgian widow called Mireille. She has about 100 million estates that's left, and there was no will. And the will that is there is being contested by several people. And then Lamu receives 45 billion cranes as Ethiopia, South Sudan set to use the facility. And then we have Medics warn police boss after picketing orders. Apparently, the police boss was very abrasive in terms of how he dealt with the Medics asking them for permission to picket. And early campaigns, poison chalice or blessing in disguise. Do talk to us. What do you think about early campaigns that are ongoing almost all over the country? From there's no county that is spared of this. From Nairobi, we're seeing the tough war between Babu Wino and the senator, Sakaja, Senator Sakaja, and the Senate, not senators, the governor. Governor Sakaja and Babu Wino and the Senator Sifuna, actually, yes. And we're seeing it in Kiambu County, we're seeing it in Machakos, we're seeing it in Migori, we're seeing it in Siaya as well. Do talk to us. What do you think about this move? And then we also have mysterious deaths pile as state drags its feet on coroner's office. We all remember Shakahola. And it seems as if we are going to bury this thing into oblivion. No information is going to come out of it. No justice is going to come out of it. And the coroner's office is delaying with their reports. And what do we do from here for the families that were victims of the murders? And then flamingos at Lake Bogoria at risk because the water level are rising. Lake Bogoria is actually a hot water lake here. It has Jesus, so it's the level of water is really rising, and this is putting flamingos at risk. For many people who do not know, flamingos are actually a tourist attraction. If you go to Lake Nakuru, Bogoria, and some parts of Naivasha, I think, yes. And then we move to the Standard, where we find politics of term limits renewed as calls for President Ruto to rule for more than 10 years. So you need to really be very vigilant as a citizen. There's a reason why the Constitution prescribes 5 years for the president, and if they renew it, then another 10, and beyond that they cannot do so. So apparently there's been some whispers that too young to go home, and this happened even with the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. And I don't know what you think about that, but I think you should be very vigilant in terms of how this renewed call is coming up to mutilate the Constitution, because our Constitution is the only protective measure we have against such unruly move by politicians. And then we have White House. The U.S. won't take part in retaliatory action against Iran. And then on page 4, we have what the conflict between the Israeli government and Iran means for Kenya, as Ruto and Ramaphosa call for restraint in Middle East escalation. For many people who do not know, and now there were killings by Israeli strike in Damascus on April 1st, which killed top 3 Iranian military officials. And Iran says, we are going to retaliate. We're going to do a drone strike and a missile strike. And they did so, which was actually pushed against by the Iron Dome set by Israeli and the US. So Israeli actually is considering moving against the Iran attack in a retaliatory counteractive attack. I don't know what's going to mean, what this is going to mean, but I think many people are moving towards the silence that the President Ruto has been having towards Palestinian massacre. So Palestinian massacre has been ongoing for a long time, and the president was very quiet. And now that Israeli was under attack by Iran, he has a voice. So that actually tells you the kind of diplomatic allies we have with the West. Some people say that the President Ruto is a mouthpiece or is a puppet for the West. And we see that this is something that has been ongoing, even when with the Haitian issue. You know, it's not very hard to see where his loyalty lies. And I think at some point, as a Kenya, we need to really stand firm, whether it is oppression, because oppression that happens in our neighborhoods, it will one day happen to us. It's just that this time is just for them. We might not be very safe at the end of the day because we are always expendable to the West. And then we have strong shilling fuel's biggest drop in pump prices in recent times. For a long time, the prices of fuel has been quite high, 170s, 200. And I think it's a big reprieve for most motorists and for people traveling using public transport. So, and then also we have on page 8, Ruto says no sacred cows in fertilizer scandal. Apparently, there's been a huge leak of fake fertilizer all over the country. And there's not been anyone accountable, including the minister or the cabinet secretary for agriculture. And then on page 12, we have TSC set to employ 20,000 teachers amid shortage. Very good one, eh? I hope they're going to employ teachers who've been waiting on the line for years and years. And on a business daily, we have Treasury makes U-turn on stopping KQ bailout. And on page 2, we have pump prices drop for 5th month in a row, while the shilling rallies. Apparently last month, the inflation rate was 5.7, and this month, last month was 6.3, this month is 5.7. So that means there's an improvement in terms of the shilling, the strength of the shilling against the US dollar. And then something that I also found very good to highlight, eTIMS lesson Kenya can learn from Latin America. So many people have been wondering what eTIMS is. eTIMS is an electronic invoicing tool. So many people have gone to any government office lately, whether it is a hospital or Huduma, they tell you to pay via a certain pay bill number. I think it's the 222. So if you do that, the government has centralized its invoicing system. So you no longer pay to the hostel directly. You pay to eTIMS. And you need to have an account for eTIMS. And while this is going to maintain a certain form of transparency and accountability, I think it needs a very robust infrastructure, particularly ICT, so that we don't have the outages that we experience if you go to Kenyatta, or if you go to many government hostel and facilities. That is the headlines today. We're going to have 2 songs and we'll be back to the discussion we have today.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
They say it in my pockets are only coins and broken dreams, but it's alright. It doesn't matter what they say, wataongea anyway, any day. You and I both know the shit I can't afford, but I can't afford to lose you. Cause it's so hard to find them hawezi mind. Sazile hakuna kitu, tuna spend some quality time, and it's so hard to find them hawezi mind. Sazile hakuna kitu, tuna spend some quality time, and it's alright. Baby, you are my woman, the words to my luga, sweet matuna. You are my woman, the words to my luga, sweet matuna. Nikikupikia kadishika poa, na feel ni kama tuko kwa ndoa, na hiyo ndiyo ficha nataka. Baby, keti hapa, wacha Acha mi leo nipige dasta. You deserve a break. You deserve to feel my love in every single way. 'Cause it's hard to find mgema wezi mind. Sasa ile hatuna kitu, tuna spend some quality time. It's so hard to find mgema wezi mind. Sasa ile hatuna kitu, tuna spend some quality time, and it's alright. Oh, 'cause you are my woman, the words to my Luca, sweet my tunda. You are my woman, the words to my Luca, sweet my tunda. You are my Luca. Oh, tell me, baby, don't do me, baby, 'cause now I know your love not ready.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Miaka 16, kidato cha kwanza, pokea salamu, siku mpya. Insider za kwanza, zasifiwa boma, kaipokea tetesi, moja shule ni wikendi, barua ulioituma, nimeshasomana, moyo wangu waridhika, sijaanza kupumua. Hapo zamani kajua ningekuoa, hapo zamani ukiambiwa unapendwa, waamini ukipendwa una imani. Aiwelele, sikuweza kupumua. Hapo zamani kajua ningekuoa, hapo zamani ukiambiwa unapendwa, waamini ukipendwa una imani. Aiwelele, aiwelele,
Sikujua miaka 16, siyo miaka ya kuelewa dunia. Sikujua miaka 16, siyo miaka. Amani ukiambiwa unapendwa, ukipendwa una imani. Hajua ningekuoa, hapo zamani ukiambiwa unapendwa, waamini ukipendwa una imani.
How do you participate in governance? Because when people say Kenya, what exactly do you mean by Kenya? What exactly do you mean by the government? The for a second, or reflect for a minute. We, the people. It reflects back to you as a person, back to you as an individual pale mtaani, ukiwa farm, ukiwa job, ukiwa mathri, unapiga mboka, ukiwa chuo. You have a right as a human being. And that's number one in the Bills of Rights. You have a right as a citizen to participate and partake in the daily conversations that are ongoing, in the daily events that pertain governance and issues of policy, issues of reform, issues of government service, issues of government service delivery. So you have a right as a person First of all, a right to life. You're supposed to live, because if you don't live, if you're dead, you can't do anything. But if you're alive, you have a voice. And that voice is what matters. That voice is what makes you queue every 5 years to elect a leader. Because this leader is going to exercise what is called representative democracy. They represent you, because we can't all go to parliament. All 50 million Kenyans cannot go to parliament. So we elect people on our behalf. And they go to make laws, and pass laws, and legislate laws. They have discussions that we hope are fruitful in terms of steering this country to a positive direction. So we're going to look in terms of, as we know, the Kenyan Constitution actually affords citizens the right to access information, participate, and hold the government accountable. However, the political space has been facing vital challenges that undermine these provisions. Now, we're going to look at some of these major challenges that include the way the government rubber stamps their policy. We've seen the way President Ruto usually retorts, and this is something that cuts across many public officials. Whether you wake up one morning and they say very reckless stuff, we won't pay, we can't pay. This thing will go on, we shall revisit. All these things are echoes of fundamental infringement of these rights that we have as citizens, because they do not allow citizens to participate better in this democratic space. Remember, it is a democratic space. So nobody is going to wake up one day and say, I'm the authority here. So there's nothing you're going to say that's going to make me change my mind. And then we have limited access to information. We talked about this last week. And then we have inadequate knowledge and capacity among citizens to participate in governance processes. And we have lack of proper representation by elected leaders due to party politics and concerning generational gap in the human rights space. For a long time, many of us have been caught in the dilemma of, if a politician comes with 50 bob or 100 bob during electioneering period, and I take that money, then I have no reason to hold them accountable whenever they end up not doing what they are elected to do. When the roads are bad, when the hostels are dilapidated, we have no voice because we already took our money. And this goes back to, how do we elect? Because accountability is not something you wait you wait for a later date. You don't borrow the grief of accountability later. You do it by exercising the right thing in the ballot box, because that is the number one most divine right any person has when it comes to exercising your accountability right. When you elect a better and responsive leader, leaders who are objective-minded, leaders who are able to have objective policies that are actually geared towards the constituency, your constituents. But if you have leaders who were just elected because they had some money, or because they fought into power, because we've seen violence, we've seen people who are leaders who just choose violence during elections. So to address these issues, we at Power 254 are implementing what is called a RETIE project. This is not something very difficult. RETIE is kind of like an acronym. Like back in the day, we used to have board mass, class 3, class 4, board mass. I remember when you first had board mass. So this is the same thing. RETIE is just an acronym where we're looking in terms of rights, inclusion, transparency, and accountable institutions. Let's break it down a little bit. What do you mean is a right? Najua back in the day kulikuwa na ngoma ya Jimwat. Story kitu kidogo. I think kuna wasanii wengi wali jump up kwa hiyo track. Kina Jokali, a lot of artists. It was an activism. I would say an activism voice of young artists in the Kenyan media and in the music industry space. So they were saying stoi kitu kidogo because unajua right yangu. Unajua right yangu. This is how the cops usually respond to such claims. When you say you have your own right, you have your own right. And cops have this very bad habit of making you second guess yourself. Do I have a right really? When a police officer comes mtaani tukiwa based unapiga maybe story, ama you're going back home, mko na boys wako, mnatembea mnarudi home after job, afu polisi atokea aseme toeni ID, mnafanya nini hapa, mnaenda wapi? Unasema afande mimi naenda home, nimetoka job. Unaenda home na hiyo rasta yako. First of all, an afande is supposed to actually tell you, I am stopping you because I feel this and this is wrong and I would like for you to offer some clarification. That's your right as a person, because you have a right of freedom of movement wherever you are, all over the country. You as a citizen, you can move from Isiolo to Lamu to Mombasa to Diani to Nyakach to Migori to Makweni. You can move, and you can hold any meeting with whoever you want, as long as this does not infringe on the provisions of the constitutions. And we'll come back to that later. So we have your right as a person. You have a right to participate. You have a right to move around. You have a freedom to gather and talk, like we usually do. Tukiwa watch ball, ama tukiwa pale mtaani in social halls when we are discussing issues about the community. So you have a right. And then we talk about inclusion. When you have a right and you're not included, then that right is having a miscarriage. What I mean by that is when you have a right and you do not exercise that right, then there is a loophole for the authority or the institutions to procure corruption, number one, or to procure a miscarriage of justice. Let me explain it further. Imagine akuja kuwa na maji for like a week. Mtaani mkasema, maji ya Kanjoi come through. So let's gather maybe a few neighbors, and then we gather the next neighbors in the next block to come up to the social hall. Alafu we discuss and then present this to the Nairobi County Council or the County Assembly. So you come back there, and then mkachini. There's a secretary, there's somebody taking the minutes, and then you pile up, and then before you know it, police may come through. Why are you having this meeting? Meeting ya nani la approve. And because you do not know your right, you do not know that you're supposed to actually gather and discuss this issue of very, very, very much importance to the community, you will scatter around, and you might even be taken to jail for that if you do not know your right. But if you stand your right and say, we have a right to gather here and discuss the issue of water shortage, something that the Nairobi County is supposed to be tendering, is supposed to be looking forward to, because we can't go 3-4 working days and we're paying taxes. It's not like they informed us there would be a water shortage for this period of time. So you have a right. But when that right is injured at some point, it means you are not able to exercise it. So it means that the institutions of government or the system is not allowing you into the mix, into participation. And that is what it means to be included in the space. So you are not included in the space. And then we have transparency. Transparency is what maybe a Nairobi County government would tell you. I think you have seen this. The KPLC usually publishes when there's supposed to be a blackout or a shortage or a maintenance. So they say during this period of time between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., we're going to have a shortage in, let's say, Kilimani, or we're going to have a shortage in Buruburu. And until it is rectified, be considerate. So that is transparency. They are owning up to something that is going to disrupt your daily routine. And because Pawa is a service, it's a service by the government institution, KPLC, namely KPLC. So they are being more transparent by letting you know. And transparency is not just about letting you know. It's also taking ownership of the inconvenience this is going to cost. Understand? And then we have accountable institutions. So we have many institutions. Many people say, what institutions ni nini? Institutions ni nini? Well, look at the court, you look at Nairobi Water, you look at the judiciary, you look at parastatals like, Kenya Medical Authority, we look at KPMD, all these are institutions. And institutions is more like, consider it sort of an organization, but it's a public institution. So every public institution usually has a mandate. When you come to Posta, you know what they do. When you come to KPLC, you know what power and distribution. We come to irrigation board, you know what they do. They consider irrigation, and people particularly in Jagero, Umwea, are very much closer to what the provisions of such bodies. So every institution usually has a mandate that they are governed to do. And when these mandates are done properly, then service delivery is seamless. But when one thing is not done and transparency is undermined, then we find that these provisions, all these rights that the citizens do have, are infringed upon. And so the project is to rethink how we can hold accountable each other, number one, and then the institutions. Because institutions are not just buildings or organizations. They are us. In fact, some of us are members, some of our family members, some of our fathers, some of our sons and daughters work in these institutions. So we cannot separate ourselves from these institutions because we participate in how they are formed, we participate in how they are vetted. In fact, right now, I think one of the headlines that we were having is there would be a appointed diplomat to Congo, could not spell or could not actually identify or define what a GDP. And the GDP is a very critical role. When you are a diplomat and you go to Congo because you are supposed to have bilateral trade talk with the Congolese government, you're supposed to know at least the numbers, at least the basic things. You might not be an economist, but you're supposed to know the basic things. And we've seen the vettings going on around. So if we are not able to vet our public servants very well, so we are going to have a very mediocre institution, because institutions are powered by people, powered by personnel. And these are people, and these people are drawn from us, citizens. And then once they are drawn from us, because they represent us, we are supposed to hold them accountable by how they become transparent, by how they relay information, by how they deliver service, by how they speak up for us, for our voices. And this is what enables an environment that supports the realization of human rights through increased access to information, through enhanced transparency and accountability, through citizen participation in public affairs. We'll go to what it means to participate as a public servant or as a citizen. And as we go along, I want you to reflect on these 3 key areas. I usually call them T for my students: transparency, accountability, and enhanced capacity. Transparency, accountability, and enhanced capacity. While we go through the next discussion, I'll be able to bring you closer to what that means for you as a citizen in the larger picture of the country.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Track inanichangamsha na vile nilikuwa nimechoka. Nimechoka na kutoa kitu kidogo. Ikitatao karancho dosh kama mbao kasi tatao kitu kidogo. Story kitu kidogo. Nasema nene story kitu kidogo. Talala ndani story kitu kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kitu kidogo. Nasema nene story kitu kidogo. Talala ndani story kitu kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kila wii anadai corruption ni blanda, hata makarau lakini bado wananihanda. Napatana nao usiku nkitoka job kwa njia sina mia hawezi nihurumia. Kwanza kitana epuko wa kipande mazee Joe uskini lisa wafande. Okay, sasa itabidi umelala naye. Hapana, najua right zangu yo sikubali. Ati una right minaona una wrong. Akanipiga kibao karivasi ndani yao. Kwe karima wako Mariamu inaniongelesha nadhani we ni nyanyangu. Si hivyo nimefikisha 18 tu juzi. Napata ID tafa shunelo kuna upuzi. Ina go down. Slow down. Silewi yo nugaza kuongea ganje. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo. Tumechezana watu ka 15 kwa hiyo pick up. Kila store wakosi watu wa kupick up. Kaa huna ganji beba yeye. Unikani mathri beba yeye. Wote wanabonga juu ya thugi anaitwa Onyi. Nasikia huko ndani yendo fast body. Wanuliza karao Onyi hayuko. Hamna baadhi nyangao Onyi ilo. Nikaa kila mtu hapo anatupa mbao. Wanachilia wakibrai karao na mathao. Kebaki solo sana elekea ndani bana. Umefika nyumbani ishula. Ananiandikia sina ID kwa kitabu ya OB. Kisha anaongezea drunk and disorderly. Anakubali amekosa lakini eti ana raba. Leza kutokinunua raba 700. Story kidogo. Nasema nini story kidogo. Talala ndani story kidogo. Niambele sajo. Nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo. Nasema nini story story kidogo, utalala ndani story kidogo, niambeleza joka, nimechoka na kutoa ungali kuna nuka kacho, watu wamelala kwa floor 444 hadi wana snow, najisunda kando nipate kausingizi, nasikia onyi hapa kuna mawiki, kuna giza titi kuona si easy, onyi anabonga ujabwa chini kidhani yatanipiga hadi nigeri anazusha mafaro unashika wakana ni show ni keti tunaanza kupiga story mpaka che kumbe jela siku bori napata mabeste ka 52 uko ndani mmoja mpaka ananiahidi job mtaani imepita kama mwaka tangu hiyo noma nilipata hiyo job inanilipa vinoma kwa Toyota Prado nasimamishwa na karao na cheka kama wenda saile na mshow story kidogo nasema nene story kidogo utalala ndani story kidogo niambeleza joka nimechoka na kutoa hongo story kidogo nasema nene story kidogo utalala ndani story kidogo niambeleza joka nimechoka na kutoa hongo
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio. Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Love sometime. When it comes to the matters of the heart, there's nothing you can do about it. So this is dedication to you. Okay, let's kiss it. Yeah. Baby boo, ni mapenzi tu, hakuna mwingine maishani ni wewe tu. Vile unatabasamu kila saa, inabaki nimekaa, nibaki nimezubama. Na hii ni kweli ma, nisikufichi ma, hii ni mapenzi kutoka kwa roho ma. Ningependa kueleza jinsi umenifanya nikakupenda, ndio ninasema you're my only strength, you're my only weakness, you're the kind of girl I want to be seen with. Niwe wako wa milele, tupendane mpaka mwisho, tukae na tupendane, cause I wanna spend the rest of my life with. Nataka tuwe na family ya mien, nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow all together forever and ever.
I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever. It's you. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever.
Mapenzi tele kati ya si mimi na wewe, na ni wewe tu, wewe mwenyewe. Hamna mwingine anafanya ni kreki, hamna mwingine ananiita baby, hamna mwingine maishani mwangu kwa roho yangu. I promise I'll always be a baby. So let me explain to you loud and clear, cause I love you baby, and that's why I'm here. Nitafanya everything to make sure you're happy. Nikupe moyo wangu, nikupe some good loving, nikupende venye ulivyo na roho safi, na nihakikishe pendo letu liko wazi, cause I wanna spend the rest of my life with. Nataka tuwe na family ya mien, nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow all together forever and ever, cause
I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever. It's you. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever. It's you.
napenda unavyokaa, napenda anything and everything, all things about you ma. Mi napenda hiyo tattoo ya flower, mi napenda smile yako ya power, mi napenda unavyotembea visawa, mi nakupenda tu na tena sana, mi nakupenda tu na tena sana, na tena, na tena, na tena, cause it's, I wanna spend the rest of my life with. Nataka tuwe na family ya mien, nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow all together forever and ever.
I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever. It's you. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you. Nataka tuwe na family, me and you. Nataka tuishi nawe pamoja, grow old together forever and ever. It's you.
Yeah, boy Big Ben and Sana Paytande, bringing you closer and closer with you. It's a homeboys production. Cheers.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Hello, so earlier on we were talking about the democratic civic space in Kenya. What does that mean for you as a citizen? When it comes to participating, what do you understand by public participation? Najua watu wengi wameenda events. Maybe ilikuwa nini mtaani ama there was an NGO that's doing some projects in your area. Na unaitaga mkutano. And then you become a participant. So what does it mean to publicly participate in any aspect as a citizen? Now, public participation is a fundamental right accorded to citizens by the Kenyan constitutions. So it's not like tunasema stories za jaba. So if you go back to chapter 4 of our Kenyan constitution, we find from Article 26 to Article 51 is actually talking about your rights as a citizen. I'll just highlight just a few, which I think are very important when it comes to public participation. So we have a right to life. We've talked about that. And then we have a right to equality and freedom from discrimination. In other words, the Constitution says that all of us are equal before the law. That's why it says we the people. No person, and that's why I usually hate it term. Itoga common mwananchi wa kawaida. Sijai like your term because it already it's discriminatory towards certain caliber of citizens. It's kind of like we are distinguished between certain people who are more deserving than others. And I think that's the number one thing we need to actually get rid of. And I think it might need a cultural shift because even a number of citizens do feel like they are lower, they are lower class. We don't deserve to be in this country. They are better children of God than we are. And I think that's number one that we need to actually question ourselves because we are equal. You might be having a different background. You might be having a different background in class or religion. You come from a different culture. You come from a different community. You come from a different estate. All these things simply classifies us, but it does not mean that somebody is better than the other. We are all equal. And then we have human dignity. Dignity to nile to you as a person. Somebody is supposed to, like if I meet you and I feel like, okay, you have wronged me. And then I pick a panga and just say, so I'm going to cut you because, I can do it. Dignity might also mean that you as a person, I think there was a time that women were being stripped a lot. And it's still something that is ongoing even currently because a lot of women are being killed just because they are women, just because they are helpless. And this is something that goes to the idea of human dignity. How do you dignify another person? One very simple way of dignifying somebody is communicating. If you're frustrated, do you say, maze, ngombe zako zilikuja kwa famu yangu zikakula my mimea? That in itself, and then say, I'm going to take you to the chief because I feel like I am not able to address this issue personally. So I'm going to take you to the chief and this issue is going to be discussed there. You have dignified somebody who has wronged you. And then I think number two, poverty is something that is very common in most of our communities. We have people that are not as privileged as we are. And sometimes we've seen many drives through children's home or sometimes, and I think it's something that I used to see. I still see it at home a lot. When we share food, somebody comes for breakfast or sometimes when you cook something that is a little extra, unapeka kidogo unapeleka kwa neighbor and say, hey, but they cook some githeri. Would you like some? That's dignity, man. Ukiwa pale kwa matri, maybe an expectant lady come in and you're like, I think I can handle sitting or, just alighting in the next stage. And then you decide, why don't you take this front seat and then I'll go to the back because you are dignifying this expectant woman. You realize the situation they are in, they may not be able to move all the way further to the back seat. So you're dignifying them by giving the seat to them that is more convenient. That's dignity. And then we have freedom and security of the person. You are a person who is entitled to security. That's why the government has very many arms over there. There's the AP, there's the GSU, there's the army, and they all have their jurisdictions, you know. And then we have slavery and servitude and forced labor. Nobody is supposed to take you up on slavery and tell you, you are supposed to work for me, you're not going to get paid. And then if you are a minor, nobody is supposed to tell a minor who's under 18, because there are labor laws, to work for a certain period of time or to work under a certain jurisdiction without the government being aware of it. And if they're aware of it, they're supposed to be arrested because they are violating a right, a fundamental right to this person. And then privacy, of course, this is very much self-explanatory. That's why we have the Data Protection Act of 2022. So if somebody, maybe I think this is something that is very relatable amongst young people. There's something called revenge porn. Maybe we may break up na ex wako. And then you decide, sasa zile, all the intimate messages and maybe photos that you exchange, you're going to just go online and share them without this person's permission. That is an infringement of your privacy. Or you install a camera in your ex's place or in your former lover's place to monitor and watch them. You're infringing on their privacy. Or you hack into the system or somebody's system or institution. That's an infringement of privacy. Or you are, let's say you are a hotel. Most hotels, when you go in, they usually have like a booklet. They indicate if you have a plate number, if you came with your car, plate number, and then your name, probably your phone number and ID number. And sometimes, I think back in the day, they used to share these very important details with other people, other third parties. So this is an infringement of your right, because this data was supposed to only be used by this establishment and not any other person. And then we have freedom of conscience and religion and belief and opinion. Very important. Because, like I said, we all come from very different backgrounds. We were not all born the same. Some of us come from a different community. Some of us have different educational backgrounds. Some of us have very different social backgrounds. This do not mean that we are in any way better than the next person. It just means that we are different. And this is why we have the conscious, the inner voice. Kuna kale ka voice kako kana kumbega, hey, nikifanyia mse hivi si poa. That's your conscious talking. And then there are people who go to the mosquito every Friday. There are people who go to temples. There are people who go to church Saturdays or Fridays or Sundays. The Constitution guarantees you that freedom because it recognizes that we are different. And our difference of color and social backgrounds is not our weakness. It's our strength. It's a diversity. And then the expression and media and information and association. These I will tie them together because they come in how do you express your opinion when it comes to governance. How do you engage the media, whether it's a radio? I'm very sure very soon we'll be having call-ins where we'll be asking you to call us to give us your opinion in terms of the matters that are ongoing. So how do we express ourselves and how do we utilize the media platforms that we have, social media or traditional media? And then how do we access information that's available publicly that we are entitled to? And then how do we associate amongst each other? So these are some of the rights that we will make public participation even better, because without them, we are just sinking in a very vast sea, and we are prone to mistakes, prone to infringement of our rights, and nobody will come in and say, bedhe unajua mtu akikufanyia hivi, mtu akikwambia mzee hatuwezi fanya hiyo. It's like the song that played by kina Jimwat, stoi kitu kidogo. If you go to a public office to report maybe an abuse, or you want to obtain a P3, and then they tell you, bade koprolonia yuko, but we lipa 5,000 kikuja tutafuel gali arafu kuje kwako. Unaona? So if you do not have the information about how things are supposed to run when you go to report, obtaining a P3 is free. You're supposed to give information in terms of what happened that you want to obtain P3 for. And they're supposed to record that in their OB, in their OB book, occurrence book. And they're supposed to issue you with an OB number. An OB number is kind of like a reference. Like when you're applying for a job, there's usually a reference number. I'm applying for this job because, I saw it on advertising. So it's kind of like it helps them narrow down or follow up on these specific cases. It's supposed to be free. Nobody's supposed to tell you you're supposed to fuel any car. And this is something that is also very common, especially in our area where cattle rustling is very common between the border counties of Kisii, of Nyamira, Kericho, and Kisumu and Nandi. So sometimes you call the police, and we have the anti-rustling unit, not very far from our home, actually. It's about 15 kilometers. And sometimes we used to call them, and they would tell us, we don't have fuel, so can you fuel for us so that we come to the area of incident? Which is not the way it's supposed to be. The government has this police unit, and they're supposed to fund them, and supposed to fuel these vehicles. And they're supposed to be ready at any time, because emergencies can occur at any given point. So if you are a citizen, you as a citizen do not know that you have a right to this service, then you will probably pay money because you feel like, I need to pay the money for me to get the service. Yet you do not need to do that. So public participation includes, amongst very many things. It means that the government is recognizing that we are collaborating. Remember, we say that all of us cannot go to parliament. All of us cannot be MCAs or MPs or women rep. So we need to elect somebody to represent us in these legal institutions. That's the parliament, the county assemblies, the institutions and parastatals. We all can't be there in person or in spirit. So we elect somebody to represent us. And public participation is to recognize that once we elect these people and they are in place of us, then they're supposed to collaborate with us. Collabo. Na wase wengi wanajuaga collabo ni nini. Na kuna msee akifanya track na msee mwingine, maybe calligraph na msee mwingine, make feature. So we are supposed to feature in the public participation process. How do we do that without collaborating? It's impossible. So we have to collaborate with the government in the decision-making process. And then ultimately, this empowers us to contribute to that decision. So that when the government says we're going to raise the interest rate from 18 to 19.5%, and in the last 6 months, they've been going all around the counties, collecting data, collecting views and opinions from the citizens. And then they say, from the survey that we've been having, from the public participation that that has been ongoing for the last 6 months, 85% of Kenyans said that they want the interest rate to be raised to 19.5. So that in itself becomes the voice of the people because it represents a majority of the people. The same way, when you go through an election and somebody emerges a winner with 50 plus 1% of the total tally, then he becomes the president because he represents a majority. He represents a majority of that decision. It does not mean that it's all now dismissing the other 49%. No. It means it represents the majority. A majority means they're supposed to govern with consideration and discretion of the other minority. And that's why we have the minority whip in parliament, because it's supposed to give a check balance within these institutions. And then we have hearings. Many people do not know public hearings. Like I remember when before devolution got into action, there was a commission that was going around every part of the county. Remember back then we didn't have counties. So they were collecting views. And they used to be in social. I remember attending one at Aga Khan Hall in Kisumu. So they used to ask, for example, there's a very basic stuff. What would you call your county in your area? And what is the extent of demographic, like a region? What region would it cover? What logo would you have as, for example, the county that you have said? So it actually invites you in and says that you have a voice, and your voice and opinion matters in terms of the decision that we are going to make, in terms of the devolution decision that we are going to make. And this makes you part of the process. So that I think many of us usually feel that we do not know when these public hearings are supposed to be happening. They're usually gazetted every other day. Every other day there's something happening. Even right now, ukienda tu even hata kwa chief, there's usually a baraza going on. Maybe they're talking about the fertilizer. Maybe they're talking about a government incentive that is happening. Maybe they're talking about bursaries. So these are public hearings, and it allows you to give your opinion and voice into the decision-making process. So you don't feel like you are relegated on the sides, off the margin. Because you as a citizen, when you participate, you become more engaged in the process and you become a part of it. You don't feel like you are pushed to the side and you do not matter anymore. And your voice only ends when you elect somebody to represent you in parliament or the county assembly. And then we also have, we can also engage through our elected representatives, through MCAs, the members of county assembly, or by organizing ourselves in citizen groups and sector working groups. That's why when I started, I said, if there is water shortage in mtaani pale mali unakaa, and then you decide as neighbors, and then you said, let's invite akina Mwende, akina Uchi, akina Oti, akina Abubakar, da Muhammad, tukue tu na meeting mali, and then we discuss what we need to do about the water issue. That's you participating in governance. It might sound very simple, but it's very important because it means you have exercised your right of expression, your freedom of expression, and then also you have expressed your freedom of association. You have included the next person so that you can have a more bargaining power. Because sometimes I think also people usually think, mina voice yangu moja, what would really matter? It doesn't matter anymore. If I go to the government office, nobody will listen to me. But if you come together as a community and then you draft minutes and then you say you present this as a petition, it holds more power, and then it can also be followed up as a group. You can even register a CBO, like a lot of people are in CBOs, a lot of people are in table banking groups which have constitutions. So you can actually present a petition based on what it is you have discussed within these meetings. So the Kenyan constitutions and the County Government Act of 2012 have clear provisions on public participation. For example, in Article 10 of the Constitution, outlines public participation as one of the national values and principles of governance. Very important. So we said we are not just saying stuff or just blabbering. It's something that is enshrined in the Constitution, in the Article 10 of the Constitution of the Kenya Constitution and County Government Act of 2012. This is actually what gave birth to devolution, the devolved units that we have, or what we call the county governments. And right now we have two levels of government. We have the national government. It has all jurisdictions that are basically more bigger picture, the treasury, we have the health, we have the education, but even that is also devolved kidogo because we see ECD, the early childhood development education, is now devolved to the county government. And so this makes it compulsory for county government to facilitate public participation in their planning process. For example, if they are drafting a budget, they usually go around and they say, this road from this place or from point A to point B has not been very good. So we are going to take, let's say, 1.3 billion for its upgrade. And before they do that, they usually have a very deliberate participatory process where they collect your views, they listen to you, they say, why do you want this road improved? Then you say, this road actually connects us to the next market. We are farmers and we rely on this road. So if this road is in a bad shape, then it means most of our produce is going to go bad. It's not going to reach the market in time. And that is one way of actually participating. And we also do have to be very honest because despite the robust legal framework that we have, the implementation process of effective public participation has a significant challenge. And this means back to what do we do in terms of how do we access the information? What is the tendency of government officials to just rubbish you? Don't come here. Don't come here without the money. Like if you go to Nyayo sahi, labda wase wali apply passport. Watakwambia ukuje 2032 because papers haziko. And because we have a culture over and over, the government officials usually get away with this thing. Last year, it was the same thing. During Uru's government, it was the same thing. During Kibaki's government, it was the same thing. You go to Nyayo House, they tell you there's no papers. Come back 2-3 weeks later. And then before you realize it, your spirit has softened. And then you start second-guessing yourself. You say, by the hata nikilipa 10K, siyo nini itakuja. Then you bribe. And when you bribe, you have withdrawn yourself from public participation. You have withdrawn yourself from your right to access of information, from your right to access of service delivery by the government. When we come after 2 songs, we'll proceed to look at devolution in Kenya and how that has contributed to public participation.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Many faces, many races. I've come through many places, but I never seen a sky so blue. My mind and so free and so whole, yeah. But I never seen a sky so blue.
Jojo, giddy maji maji, yeah. And the 6 SA Groove Machine, come on, D-Rex, one. Tunda na mi Inega inego wato ok nege Imaka go wato ok make Dene, yote tukwa no pesa wa ebengi Intame, aneko kibithoko uko taya Maji tapo shine Pile katache, kakilo no watch mara Dierka himo 44 Tida winjo kaluora, olo mi amor Ping to the war, go chonge pinye lem Yesu, Lion of Judah Nene, maricho mase timoneji Tobene wena, aher ngata wenga Kadita loke Judas ma Iscariot
Many faces, many faces.
Yeah.
I've come through many places,
yeah.
but I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
My mind and so
yeah.
free and so whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
Marakora to wena, mi akan. Cheno manya sa en mana, nikik ala. Anginga, tawenga, nena kakachal. Cheno manya sa en mana, nikik ala. Para donje wia, keneno gigingia. Nikata tim na nade, meto donje wia.
Many faces, many faces. I've come through many places, but I never seen a sky so blue. My mind and so free and so whole, yeah. But I never seen a sky so blue. Many faces, many faces.
Yeah.
I've come through many places,
Yeah.
but I never seen a sky so blue.
Giddy maji
My mind and so
Yeah.
free and so whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never seen a sky so blue.
Giddy maji Badala wizi na shika MIC kama 2PSC MC kutoka Kenya Joe.
Ayo, nani atasema tia tujafika? Na siku hizi tunasikika Afrika.
Nawakilisha, natisha, nabisha, left right, yani kulia kushoto, staki msoto.
Yani ndiyo maana siku hizi tuna rock out. Kutoka Cairo yani mpaka Cape Town.
Many faces, many faces.
Yeah.
I've come through many places,
Yeah.
but I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
My mind and so
Yeah.
free and so whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
Many faces, many faces.
Yeah.
I've come through many places,
Yeah.
but I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
My mind and so
Yeah.
free and so whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
Many faces, many races.
Yeah.
I've come through many places,
Yeah.
but I never seen a sky so
Giddy maji
My mind and so
Yeah.
free and so whole, yeah.
Yeah.
But I never seen a sky so blue.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Big shout out to Vince on the beat, by the way. What up?
Sin koma vitu nani there Puff pass washa like bigger shots like if it goes siku sutani pair tap tap back it up make it drop so feeling like a pair sinulize mbona ndai setting back up kwa kona niko sure he ujaiona mbona sinulize mbona and girl I finna place this thing on ya I finna hit it till I reach the corner mbona what you mean mbona oh you mean bona you rocking with the best
kijana ni performer. And you ain't seen nothing, this just the warm-up. Kandanda na safisha niti Maradona. She juggling the balls like Barcelona. Slim waist, big thighs make a nigga go nuts. You been overworking, man, you need a bonus. You deserve a damn yo, you all grown up. I'd buy you a Benz though lakini mbona. Mini chizi inje ya madare. Injini ya giza ringware. On point kama suti za burale. Highlight shinda zing watandale. Atwendi getu uko mbogi na weza tupona. Nkona pato la ngata kando ya bomas. Ngong road haina life uko utainiona. Baniko huku sai usulize mbona. Sinkoma vitu nanirea. Puff pass washa light bigger shots like ifika usiku sutanipea. Tap tap back it up make it drop so feeling nakupea usinyulize mbona. Ndai seti mpaka po kwa kona. Niko shua hii ujaiona. Mbona usinyulize mbona. And girl I finna place this thing on ya. I finna hit it till I reach the corner. Mbona what you mean mbona. Mbona oh you mean mbona. It's highly advised you get with the format. iPhone daku set you can be an owner. So tekeleza majuhudi jaribu kuchoma. Nko particular na Tesla danushani soma. Sugar mami afanane na Madonna. Bora neza meza njwanga kele well ya Jonah. Puss killer cat I don't mean Thomas. I'ma keep up a kind of tupa manze ya magona. Your father told you not to mess with the goons. And now you want to come and rest in my room. Every day you keep on texting me news. Saying you want to have sex in the moon. That depends on your head game. Inyalo muonya. To the low bendo hinga inyalo ponya. Jaber ngona missy informer. But after all on your makope pake Rexona. Snanga shida na kenyeji boda neza nyonya. But at least paka makeup na ka face toner. And in the business sense is pretty vicious blown up. Confidence some of them will get to man has really gone up. Dawari ya mitambili mini toy. Ikifiki hapo I'd rather remain alone. Say kushinda muda noma prepare for trauma. Kani wanyeri red flag koma. Ni ma savage kasara kona. One mistake na kukata transformer. Sin koma vitu nanirea. Puff pass washa light bigger shots like ifika usiku sutanipea. Tap tap back it up make it drop so feeling nakupea usinyulize mbona. Ndai seti mpaka po kwa kona. Niko shua hii ujaiona. Mbona usinyulize mbona. And girl I finna place this thing on ya. I finna hit it till I reach the corner. Mbona what you mean mbona. Mbona oh you mean mbona. Mbona 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 Mbona
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
This is Power Morning Drive, and my name is Omondi Ochuka. Today we are talking about the democratic civic space in Kenya. I found something that was very interesting. Nitaisoma kwa Kiswahili, nitajaribu. So I found it on the handbook of devolution in Kenya. Sasa ugatuzi nchini Kenya ni mfumo wa serikali ulioanzishwa na katiba ya 2010 ambayo iliunda serikali za ngazi za chini. Malengo ya ugatuzi nchini Kenya ni kukuza utumiaji wa mamlaka ya kidemokrasia na uwajibikaji, kukuza umoja wa kitaifa kwa kutambua utofauti, kuwapa watu mamlaka ya kujitawala na kuimarisha ushiriki wao katika utawala, kutambua haki ya jamii kusimamia mambo yao wenyewe, kulinda na kukuza maslahi na haki ya walio wachache na jamii zilizotengwa, kukuza maendeleo ya kijamii na kiuchumi na kuhakikisha mgawanyo sawa wa rasilimali za kitaifa na za mitaa, kuwezesha ugatuzi wa vyombo vya serikali na kuimarisha ukaguzi na mizani na mgawanyo wa mamlaka. Ugatuzi unatoa fursa muhimu ya kufungua uwezo wa kiuchumi wa Kenya kutimiza lengo lake la maendeleo. And this goes back to public participation. Many people ask, what is to devolve? Kuna kisungu mingi. So kuna devolve, kuna involve. Devolve. Just like when you say invest, divest. Kudivest ni kutoa unaeka mahali. Kuinvest ni kutoa kwa mfuko wako alafu unaeka weke akiba as a saving, as an investment. So to devolve, for a long time, I think many people knew. Before, I think for us, Anyayo children, I think most of us are Anyayo children. So us who grew up in the 90s, back then there was only one level of government. There was the national government. So there wasn't counties. There are kukona counties. There were kulikuwa municipals, which were actually run by the councillors. I remember back in the day. Do you remember? Yeah, if you remember. So to devolve means to move slightly from the center. So you have resources. Remember, I told you that this country is ours. We'll elect leaders only to represent us. And for a lot of us, we've always heard about the national cake. Ile cake ya kitaifa. So we have resources as a country. We have what is called, the money that is collected through taxes. We have minerals. We have tourism. We have so many ventures that gives us money and resources. And when we have this resource, it becomes what is called the national cake, keki ya kitaifa. And 2010 Constitution came in and said, for a long time, if you lived in Turkana and you are going to Nairobi, they would tell you, unaenda Kenya. I think a lot of people knew that. And for a lot of us, even when we finished high school, and labda ulikuwa Makueni ama Kitui ama Lamu ama Garsen, unaambia, mi naenda kutafuta job Nairobi. Naenda kutafuta job Kenya. Because for a long time, it only meant for you to break through, you had to come to the city. I think early on kulikuwa na track ya Kaspa Ojwang inasema manyo pesa ukila Nairobi. Kutafuta do ndio inileta Nairobi. And this money, while of course we talk about it individually in our own personal space, it does not only mean individual space. Money is usually something that is caked out. Opportunities are usually something that was so centralized that you only had to come to Nairobi to try and break through landi ya mawe. Ndoju nitaenda kuhustle industrial area ndo nipate do. So the Kenyan Constitution of 2010 said that is one of the things that has brought disparity between areas. And I think during that time, there was a lot of issues in terms of, do we move the capital city from Nairobi to Isiolo? Because people felt Isiolo is more central. It's something that is still ongoing. I think just look around. A lot of people have been talking about it. Because power and resources were centralized in Nairobi. So the Kenyan Constitution comes and says, we need to devolve, move this power, move these resources, move this public participation to the grassroots. And they created what is called ugatuzi, devolved units, which are called counties. So counties are 47. That is what was created by the Kenyan Constitution of 2010. And within counties, now we had the county assemblies, what used to be called the equal name for them. I think it's called wards. So I think we used to call them wards back in the day, but we moved slightly a bit because we needed to also move power and resources further to the grassroots. This means we had to create county assemblies and not just wards. Understood? So the objective of devolution in Kenya was to, one, promote democratic and accountable exercise of power. Yani, you move power from the seat, which was Nairobi, and now you can create it. It can be further. It can be closer to your home. So if maybe there's a power outage, labda maybe mti ilianguka lines, you don't have to come to Nairobi to steam a house. You can go to the next available office that is tasked with that particular authority, and you can ask them the questions. So you are exercising your democratic right, but not as at a national level, at a county level. And then to foster national unity by recognizing diversity. Remember I said, we all come from very different backgrounds. We all come from different counties, and these counties are from all corners of the world, all corners of our country. And it does not mean that we are lesser or somebody is more superior or this community is more superior. No, it means we are diverse. And then because of our diversity, we have been given the power to self-govern at grassroots level. And this also ends up promoting the interests and rights of minorities. Remember, back in the day, the Ogiek community, it was very famous during the time when the Mau forest was under siege. And they cried out, why are we not being recognized? And I think also the Mijikenda wanted to be recognized as their own people. A lot of people, because for a long time we only knew of the Gema and the four major tribes, Luya, Luo, Kamba, and that was just it. So devolution came in and says we can actually move government and governance and democracy towards these people so that they can feel part of the part of the bigger whole. They can usher in a new dawn where they can exercise their rights at grassroots level and they feel like they are part of the country. Remember, devolution was not meant to create different countries. That's number one. It was meant to create different counties, units of governance, units of self-governance, and not separate from the national government. There is a tie, there's a place where they come in together and now participate at national level, which is a national interest. And there's a part where they participate at grassroots levels. So we'll go into it slightly a bit and then try it and break it down. So just like I said, it was a fundamental transformation of the structure of the Kenyan state with the establishment of a national government and the 47 county governments, each with their own executive and legislative branches. Now, the national government is responsible for policy making, of course, security, major infrastructure projects, and core sectors like education and healthcare. Understood? Remember I said, kuna mali wanakutania. It's like when you look at your body, there's a hip, there's a head, there's a heart, there are limbs. All these things make up who you are as an individual. It's the same thing with a state. A state has different aspects of it. There's the legal, there's the executive, the presidency, there's the court system, there's the public institutions and all that. There's the laws, there's the infrastructure that we have, the roads, the hospitali zenye tuko nazo. So all these things form part of the country as we know it, Kenya. So that when you go to Isiolo, or when you go to Marsabit, or when you go to Migori, or you go to Voi, or you go to Lamu, or Turkana, then you see that this is uniquely Turkana, but also it also represents a certain interest of our country. And so we have, on the other hand, the county government, which is primarily responsible for healthcare services of level 1 to 5. I think when we were discussing the issue of doctor strike, we delve deeply into what it means to have level 5. This is primary healthcare divides levels 1 to 6 because that is the referral system. So ukiwa mtaani labda unaonaga maybe dispensary mahali, and then you go to the county level or the sub-county, you have a hostel mahali. You're moving through the levels of the referral system of our country. And then you go to the ligi za kina Moi teaching and referral in Eldoret. We have the Kenyatta, we have the Kisi. So we have moving forward level 5 and 6. And so that's after level 5, that's where you find the national government. Remember I said we meet somewhere in the middle. There's a give and take. The national government gives or collects the national cake and says, we're going to give you 15% of the national cake for every county. And this 15% is going to help you run the affairs at the county level. And we are going to only take the major core structure, like infrastructure projects. Maybe there's a big project, like let's say they want to build the Nairobi-Mombasa highway. They want to dual it. That's a major infrastructure. So that goes to the national government. But kuna zile njia za mtaani, maybe it links one ward to another, one county assembly to another. That falls under the jurisdiction of the county assembly or the county government. And also we have childhood education. I've talked about ECD, wale walimu wa ECD. And then we have agriculture, and then we have water and sanitation and county level infrastructure. While this means that there's a separation of how these two levels of government interact, it does not exclusively say that this is how they are supposed to operate. Remember, there's collaboration. I talked about it earlier. We can sometimes collaborate and say the national government can say, there's a project going on in Lamu County, but we are supposed to collaborate with the county government in that particular area. So they're going to come together and say, we're going to give you this amount of money, but the personnel or the human resource or the tendering process is going to lay with the county government. And then we have the Kenyan Constitution and the County Government Act of 2012 placed a strong emphasis on public participation in the devolution process. The Constitution states that sovereign power belongs to the people. Remember, I said we the people in the preamble. And the County Government Act mandates county governments to facilitate public participation in the planning and decision making. However, we see that the devolution journey has not been very smooth. I think there are some people, I remember back then when you have in the Mombasa secession move by, I think there was a Mombasa Council, Republic Council. There was a lot of time during the 2017 election where a group of Nyanza and some part of Western wanted to defect. They felt they were not being heard. The fact that a majority of them felt that the election process was undermining their voices, and they never felt included in the Kenyan process or in the Kenyan chapter. So for a long time, while devolution brought in a lot of gifts and a lot of positives, there's also been a lot of negative fallbacks and fallouts. And I'm going to look at some of them. First of all, there's the issue of corruption, which is something plaguing both levels of government, and then inherited debts. When county governments are given 15% of the national budget, sometimes they end up not utilizing one. Number two, sometimes it ends up not being enough for the kind of budget that they have. So they'll create a deficit budget. And remember, there's a time when sometimes they tender for projects like roads or hospitali or dispensary, and then they don't pay the contractor. Then the next governor that is going to come in is going to inherit a huge debt. And they're going to end up spending the next 5 years repaying this debt, which has accumulated interests. And this is one of the issues that devolution is actually facing. And then we have delays in fund disbursement by the national government. This has been a very big issue. Even today, a number of counties have not paid their health workers, have not paid their ECD teachers. Some of their contractors have also not been paid for as far as a term ago. So this creates an issue where contractors and service providers and creditors are fearful because they say, if I'm going to give my service to county government, they're not going to pay me, or I'm going to wait for 18 months. By the time 18 months comes, they tell me, we're going to pay for you in installment. Then you lose interest in the money altogether. And then government service delivery at county level is actually thwarted. And then we have the duplication of roles. Like I said, while there is a separation of what jurisdiction the national government and the county government has, sometimes there's a clash. Like I remember right now, currently, there's an ongoing active medic strike. And sometimes there are medical interns that are actually employed or are under the county government, and there are others that are actually under the national government. So sometimes there's a huge friction between these two levels of government over who is supposed to do what. And then we have interference from national government and ineffective public participation. Again, it goes back to public participation. So we have sometimes when the national government says, because, the government is formed by a party, a political process, and sometimes they end up not, brushing shoulders left, right, and center. And they say, so you guys are the difficult ones. You're not going to disperse the money. And because we understand that this is a political process, it's not immune to all these issues. And that's why we are saying to strengthen and address devolution and the persistent issues that are coming up, we have some key recommendations that we can actually think as a people. We can have a stronger coordination and collaboration between these two levels of government. We can have improved transparency where we have information that is needed. It can be in the repository of government websites. It can be in the government offices. And then we can also have effective and meaningful public participation. Because if we don't participate well, then it means that the projects that the county or the national government is going to undertake is not going to reflect our wishes or our views. It's going to be a mismatch. The government can decide we're going to build roads, but we don't need roads. We need a dispensary in this particular area. Or the priorities change. Maybe, yes, we need roads, we need the dispensary, but the priority index, it means we need the dispensary first and then the road might come maybe 2-3 years later. And that's why we need to participate more and give our views and express ourselves more solidly without fear or favor. I think that sums up what we look, when you look at it in terms of the lens of devolution from 2010 to date. That's about 12 or 13 solid years. It's a decade already. So while, yes, it has provided us with invaluable lessons and also very many gifts, No longer do we have to come to Nairobi for give. We can work in counties. We can, farm in our counties. We can trade. We can have inter-trade within counties, like Kisumu trading with Makueni, or Lamu or Kwale trading with Mombasa. So we can have bilateral inter-county relationship. And that means we are building our capacity to trade amongst ourselves, to build our capacity, and not overly rely on national government. And when we do that, more opportunities are coming to the grassroots level. We are participating more actively at grassroots levels. And this is what builds a country. A country is not built by the structures that we see in the city. Not the skyscrapers, not the big buildings. It is built by the people at grassroots levels. When we hear their voices, when our voices matter, when we give our opinions and they're actually taken into account, that is what builds our country. That is what makes us move forward from one place to another. That is what makes us say, over the last 13 years of devolution, we can say that it brought so many fruits, and we have taken into account the many challenges that we have endured or witnessed, and we can do better in this and these various aspects. When we come, we'll conclude. I'll have one song, and then we'll come to an end of our discussion today.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
Jeli ya ngomba sikona jovleta kuwa tulikuwa najua tuntawaua. Nipe pen, nipe karatasi, mwazo zote zitoke kichwani. Wengi lakini najua mimi niko sawa, mimi ndio kusema, mimi ndio le mbaya. Kalifyote nyuma yangu, mpango ni kuchange industry kwe kwangu. Wape ngoma tamu asirudi nyuma, sani tunawacheka wakianguka. Genge jina kubwa inasimama, tukitembea kila mali, kila mtu anasema safi sana, safi sana, safi sana. Hapo sawa, asante. Safi sana, safi sana, safi sana. Hapo sawa, asante. Jine na jipa lakini sijaridhika, kama vijana kona mimi wazee sijawashika. Pole pole tu watakubali, pole pole tu wataelewa lugha mtaani. Nena alisema tutatoboa, hakuna makazi ndio kitu kitatuokoa. Shwabure mimi napiga tu, atakuinua mkono mitaimbia tu. Hivyo hakuna kuogopa, na washonge dhani mimi ni showstopper. Gege ndio inabaki imesimama, baada ya show kila mtu anasema safi sana, safi sana, safi sana. Hapo sawa, asante. Safi sana, safi sana, safi sana. Hapo sawa, asante. Kona support genge shuka.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
It's been a very good and productive morning. We have had a discussion in terms of our democratic civic space in Kenya, and also looking back in terms of devolution. What has it meant for us? What has it meant towards public participation of our country? So as we tie up and conclude our discussion today, I encourage everyone to stay engaged, to advocate for their rights, and work together to create a more transparent and accountable governance system. This is something that you can do from an individual level to a community level to a national level. It is not something that is isolated to the public leaders. Remember, we have levels of accountability. We elect leaders to represent us, but we can also represent ourselves through our groups, even individually. Very many of you know who Okia Mtata is. He has been at the forefront of representing what it means to take individual action and agency. Thank you for listening and tuning in. Join us next week as we have another insightful discussion at Power Morning Drive. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio.
And I was sitting in a corner, just minding my business. And that is when I saw her. looking like a goddess. Told her, can I get your name and your number and where you come from? Yeah. But before you do all that, let me tell you something about me. I love some reggae music and she said me too. I like to burn some sass and she said me too. Born and raised in Nairobi and she said me too. Okay, sipendi watu sticky and she said me too. Sipendi watu tricky and she said me too. Can I get some more drinks and she said me too. Okay, well, it seems like you and I have a lot of things in common, and maybe we can go somewhere after this. Don't worry yourself, my girl, you'll be safe with me, no. But before I go too far, let me start once again from the top. I love some reggae music and she said me too. I like to burn some sass and she said me too. Born and raised in Nairobi and she said me too. Okay, sipendi watu sticky and she said me too. Sipendi watu tricky and she said me too. Can I get some more drinks and she said me too. Okay, ni kama tunaelewana, iko sawa, iko sawa. 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 I love some reggae music and she said me too. I like to burn some sass and she said me too. Born and raised in Nairobi and she said me too. Okay, sipendi watu sticky and she said me too. Sipendi watu tricky and she said me too. Can I get some more drinks and she said me too. Okay, I love some reggae music and she said me too. I like to burn some sass and she said me too. Born and raised in Nairobi and she said me too. Okay, sipendi watu sticky and she said me too. Sipendi watu tricky and she said me too. Can I get some more drinks and she said me too. Okay,